Merry meet and welcome. Merry meet and welcome to Soulful Sunday here at Ariel's Corner. This is Ariel Gatoga. I'm trying to get my voice back. So happy to be here. We are streaming live on YouTube. Moderating today are the lovely Dre. Let's try that again. Moderating today are the lovely Dre, the lovely Honeypot, and the lovely Deline. Thank you so much, moderators. We had really dry weather, so my voice is a little dry today, so I apologize if it comes in and out a bit. Let's see. We are streaming live, like I said, and if you haven't done so already, if you wouldn't mind, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. We'll be talking here for about another probably half an hour or so, and then I got to get to work. But if you do happen to have any questions, you can put them right in the chat thread. And if I haven't gone over and I have time, I will take those questions. If I can't get to your questions, though, you can take them over to our Discord server and or our private Facebook group. You can find links to both of those places, plus all of our social media, right on our website. And that's at arielscorner.com, arielscorner.com. While you're there, you might want to check out, if you haven't done so already, all of our free resources. We have all kinds of courses and booklets and meditations, guided meditations, lectures. It's all there, and it's all free of charge. We have a podcast hub that you can find at arielspodcasts.com. Nothing new there. There's no unique material there. It's just the different lectures and podcasts organized in a way that some people find easier to navigate than the playlist function on YouTube. arielspodcasts.com. Also, in that site, we are adding little by little transcripts to each of the lectures. So that's another perk. We have a shop at arielscornershop.com. arielscornershop.com. We have t-shirts and mugs. I think we have a couple hoodies that we've started there. There's beanies, so we'll keep adding more stuff as we get time. If you'd like to donate to this channel, you can do that by going to paypal.me/Ariel Gatoga, paypal.me/Ariel Gatoga, or on our website, you can find a little donate link right in the footer of every page, and you can do all the non-PayPal methods, such as debit card, etc. there. Or you could use a super sticker, super chat, or super thanks right on YouTube if you feel like giving a donation and you want to hang out on YouTube. We do appreciate your support, and we appreciate you for being here on this lovely Sunday. And I hope you're having a wonderful day today. And if you're not, I hope we can turn that around for you right here, right now. I think I remembered everything. We can get going. If you are in a place where it is safe and appropriate, please close your eyes and begin to take some nice, long, slow, deep, relaxing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, we feel light and peace entering the body and mind. With each exhale, let go of all the tension in your body, along with anything in your mind that you do not want. Inhaling peace, exhaling as you let go. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful sacred mountain, in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of this magical grove, a bonfire blazes forth, and it lights us and the grove with a sacred golden light. This is the light of perfect love and perfect trust. It burns away everything unlike itself, leaving us safe and serene. Into this sacred space, we invoke the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a mother and father, a goddess and God. We dedicate the time that we spend together to them, and we ask that we be guided. Oh, I forgot to also call upon our angels, our guides and our teachers, and we ask that we be guided as we walk upon the way, becoming happier, wiser, more peaceful, more magical, more successful, and more loving people. Blessed be. In the craft, many people that approach the craft are only aware of what is popular. And Wicca has become very popular. And it's wonderful. I don't dislike Wicca. I know a lot of people, have a my witchcraft is better than yours attitude. And I like to avoid that because I think it's very non-inclusive. And we want to make sure that we understand that the craft is varied. It has so many iterations. But one thing that Wicca has done is it's given people the misunderstanding that all people in the craft follow a sort of pagan reconstructionist kind of path, which is a wonderful path, and we're not downing it at all. And if you like that, you can include that, because that's the wonderful thing about the craft, is it's a craft, and you can do as you will. It's not a dogmatic religion, it's a craft, like art. It is an art. And like art, there are many principles as you train in art that you understand and that you learn, but you're not bound by all of those principles when you decide to create art. In fact, some people completely throw all of those principles away and do art their own way. And so it is with the craft. But my point in this is that there's a lot of older traditional craft that predates Wicca, that includes things that some people aren't familiar with. And when they hear it, they say, well, that's not witchcraft, because where's the pantheon of deities, or where's the pagan holidays, etc. Not everybody practices that. Not everybody practices those holidays or those deities. And some of the types of activities and practices, I should say, some of the practices of the old craft include things like the Psalms, like the Bible, angels. There's all kinds of there's all kinds of other things that don't lock in well with Wicca. And so because Wicca kind of took over and popularized the craft, a lot of that traditional craft got put into the background. And then there was a resurgence of the traditional craft. And then there was this nouveau traditional witchcraft where certain authors came and wrote books about the traditional craft from their experience or their point of view or their research. And then those got canonized and dogmatized. And we have to allow ourselves to pull back from all of that, pull back from all of the dogma, all of the stigma, and recognize that what matters most in your craft is what works. And so my goal in doing Ariel's Corner is not to give you a bunch of new rules necessarily to follow, but to present the craft as I practice it, as I see it. And that's all I can do. And so I want to talk about some of that today. I want to talk about one specific aspect of the craft that I practice today that goes, a little bit overlooked sometimes. I'd like to start out with all of that just to sort of set the stage. So today I'd like to start this talk out with just a reading of one verse of one psalm. And this psalm is Psalm number 55. And it's verse 22, and it's a very famous verse. It says, "Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved." Now, I'd like to dissect that a little bit and use it as a jumping off point for our talk today. First of all, when it says, "He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved," the righteous is all of us. Every single soul is righteous. At your core, you are perfect. You are righteous. The infinite, whatever you want to call it, whatever your name for that is, created you as an extension of itself. And it's perfect, and so are you. And so when it says the righteous, that you don't have to do anything to be righteous. You just have to stop doing things that are unrighteous. In other words, we have to stop thinking of ourselves any other way than the way that the infinite thinks of us. And it gives us the formula of how to do that right in this verse. Cast thy burden upon the Lord. What's the Lord? The Lord is a symbol. The Lord is a symbol for the infinite. The infinite creator, of which we are reminded of several qualities. There's the quality of life itself. Your heart is beating, your blood is pumping, your lungs are breathing, you are alive. So that's the infinite. That's God, if you will, or the Lord. Life itself, the principle of life itself. Then there's soul, the phenomenon of you as an individual and individualized expression of the infinite. So you have a soul that is unlike any other soul, just like a thumbprint or a face. Your soul is completely unique. There will never be any soul like yours. Spirit is the truth. Spirit is indestructible. It is eternal. It is immortal. And your soul is spirit in nature. So your soul is indestructible, undefilable, always righteous, no matter what. Intelligence is an aspect of what the infinite is. It's a quality of the infinite. And so the intelligence that creates babies from embryos and creates galaxies and photosynthesis and cell mitosis and all of those miraculous things that we all just take for granted that are happening at all times, that intelligence extends itself as you, and therefore you are a creative genius as well. Your intelligence knows no bounds. Now, in our world, we have ways to measure what we call intelligence, and it creates separation. This person's smarter than that person, etc. But none of that's true. Your intelligence is infinite. Your intelligence is infinite, regardless of how it manifests in this three-dimensional world. The principle of truth is a principle of what the divine is, of what the infinite is. You are an expression of truth. You aren't a lie. You aren't a mistake either. You're very purposeful, and who you are as a soul at your core, free from all of the ego, free from all of the misperceptions of this world, is truth itself. And so anytime we have a problem with honesty in this world, it feels bad because we're going against the grain of who we really are. And we can't undo who we are, but we can make ourselves have an experience of something other than who we really are. And you know that we're doing that anytime we feel bad emotionally. So you are truth. You are an expression of truth. Nothing can stop that. Nothing can change that, not even you. Nobody can change who you are. Love is an love is an aspect or a quality of the divine. And love is what the divine is, and as love, it extends itself, and you are an extension of love. You are created as an act of love. And so anytime you go against your true nature of being loving, it feels bad, right? Because it's not who you are. So you are love, even when you act unloving, even when you have unloving experiences in this world. That does not change your nature. You are pure love, no matter how hard you try to disprove it. You can't undo who you are. That's one thing you can't do. That's one power you don't have. You don't have the power to undo creation. You can kill your body, but you can't kill yourself. You can't. You're just an eternal being, immortal, eternal being that is an extension of love. One of the qualities of the divine is the quality of law, divine law. Cause and effect is the primary law. Cause and effect is the primary law. And you are an effect of the cause of the infinite's desire that you be. But you see, then you become a cause. And if you are a cause in that you are creating as the Creator creates you, then you are truly causing something. But if you're causing something that isn't what the Creator creates, then what you're causing is a fantasy. You're causing and I don't mean a nice, lovely fantasy. I mean, you're creating something that doesn't exist. You're creating a dream. And the only way to participate in the law of cause and effect in a way that's not like the Creator creates is to fall asleep. To fall asleep to who you are. To fall asleep to the perfection. And then you can just dream all kinds of nightmares for as long as you want to. And that's the freedom that you've been granted. You can think anything you want to think, but thinking things that are not real can only be thought of in the realm of hallucination, in the realm of nightmare, dream, fantasy. You can't make what is unreal real, but you can create in a real way. And you know you're creating in a real way when you have thoughts of love. And your thoughts of love that you extend out are real creations that have real effects. And then there's the infinite principle called presence. And the presence of the infinite is always with us. We can train our minds to feel that presence. All right, so we went through all of those just so that you can understand what we talk about when we say Lord. Not a deity off in the sky, not some superstitious nonsense. It is the real presence of the infinite that really is with you at all times and really does love you. So, if you have burdens that you carry with you, that is not the infinite's will for you. So, if you're facing something in your life right now that feels insurmountable, I want you to bring that to mind, call that to mind, and recognize that you can allow the greatness of the infinite to take over and handle it. You can literally cast your burden on that power and you can be free. It says, cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Now, it does use patriarchal terminology because of the time and place in which these things were written, but the infinite's not a gender. The infinite's pre-gendered. So when you cast your burden upon the infinite, you are sustained, and you will never suffer. It says that he shall never suffer the righteous to be moved, meaning that you'll never move off of your understanding of who you are when you cast your burden. And if you understand who you are, then your mind only creates in the right way, and everything in your life that doesn't belong starts to dissolve in favor of the truth, because you're awakening from that nightmare that we talked about earlier, just by casting the burden on the infinite, because you're not meant to carry this burden. You're not meant to carry this burden. When you have a negative appearance of lack or limitation, fear, doubt, violence, whatever it is, that's not the infinite's will. And if you feel like you have to carry the burden of that yourself, that is also you going against the infinite's will. The infinite doesn't want you carrying that burden because that's not your function. Your function is to love. Your function is to create. Your function is to be happy. The infinite's will for each and every creation is happiness, is joy. And if you're not experiencing happiness or joy, you are experiencing something that is not the infinite's will, and therefore can't ultimately be true, can it? Because if it's not the infinite's will, how can it be? Well, it can be only in the realm of an illusion, what the Buddhists call Maya, which is what this world is. And that's why the Buddhists say all life is suffering. They don't mean that all life in the infinite is suffering. They mean that all life in this world is suffering, because this world is an illusion. It's a construct. It's a projection of that which doesn't exist. But this world can be transformed into a reflection of the infinite's will for us if we let it be. And we have to start with our own lives, with our own problems. And today what we're talking about is our own burdens. Your soul within you is always greater than whatever it is that your ego projects in the world, because the ego doesn't exist. Remember, the ego is not an entity. It's a habit of thinking separately. It's a habit of thinking thoughts that are not of the infinite. It's just a bad habit. It's like smoking, heroin, whatever. It's a bad habit, and you can break the habit. The only way to break the habit is by stopping. And the way that you stop is by learning how to when you have that burden that you're experiencing, learn to cast it off. Learn to give it away. The infinite knows how to handle that. You don't. The idea that you're expected to figure out this burden is of the ego, because that will keep you busy, hopefully for many lifetimes, according to the ego, right? So we would rather just recognize that if it's a burden, it's not for me. I'll give it to the infinite and I'll go free. You can find strength even when you don't feel strong. You can find strength even when you feel incapable, even when you feel less than, even if you feel faulty. You can still find strength. And you find strength by letting go of the burdens. One burden at a time, if you need to. It's best to cast specific burdens rather than saying, oh, I cast all my burdens on the infinite and I go free. That's fine. I mean, you can say that, but it's more practical and effective when a burden comes to you that you focus on that and you say, I'm giving this up. I'm casting this. I'm letting this go. I will not carry this with me. This is not the infinite's will for me. No burden is mine to carry. I don't care what your church taught you. You do not have a cross to bear. You do not have a cross to bear. That is not the infinite's will for you. What do I always say? It's not God's fault that your church sucked. If your church taught you that you're a sinner when you grew up and that it's for you to carry burdens, and you got into that habit, and then you thought by leaving that church you left everything that they taught you, but you didn't give that up, that's not God's will. It's God's will that you give that up. Every burden. You can be peaceful even in the midst of chaos and confusion if you learn the secret of casting the burden. And it's simply just the decision to do it. There's no magical formula other than saying, I cast this burden and meaning it. And if you have to repeat that, 100 times a day or 1,000 times a day, so be it. And you keep doing it until your deep mind accepts that and says, oh, okay, I guess we don't have this burden anymore, right? Because that's how the deep mind picks up any new habit, is by repetition. How did you learn how to drive a car? How did you learn to paint? How did you learn to write your name? How did you learn a language? Whatever skills that you have, how did you learn those skills? By practicing over and over and over again until it became automatic, until your autonomic system or your deep mind took over and did it for you so that you didn't have to think about it anymore. That's a habit. So if you've got a bad habit of carrying burdens, the only way to counter that is by giving those burdens up. And you may have to do it over and over and over again for a while. And that's okay. It feels great to do, so it's not going to be a new burden for you to do that. It's going to feel lighter and lighter every time you do it. Through the infinite intelligence's spirit within you, you can achieve any goal you desire. You can achieve freedom. You can achieve peace. You can achieve prosperity. You can achieve unity with the ones you love. All of the will of the infinite is there for you to have. But the infinite won't do it for you without your permission. You can't just say, well, why doesn't the infinite take my burdens from me? Because you're not giving them. You're not casting them. You have the right to have those burdens if you want them. You can have as many burdens as you desire to have. And you may think, well, I don't desire to have burdens. But from the perspective of your deep mind, you do. Because the deep mind doesn't understand anything other than what you do. If you keep thinking a thought over and over again, the deep mind says, oh, that's what they want. So if you keep moving into your burdens, the deep mind says, oh, burdens, that's what they want, burdens. But if you start casting those burdens, if you start letting those burdens go, the deep mind takes you at your word and says, oh, they don't want burdens anymore. And like we said, it's just like driving a car or anything else, you have to repeat that for a while until that becomes a new habit. I cast my burdens on the infinite. You could even say, I let the greatness of the infinite take over. I let the greatness of the infinite take over. So you can cast your burden and let the infinite take over. And so many people say, that sounds so irresponsible. I have to figure these things out. I have to use my own mind to do this. I have to come up with all of the solutions myself. I can't just say, oh, infinite, you take over. Oh, Jesus, take the wheel. I can't do that. But if that were true, you'd have figured it all out by now. That's not how the ego works. The ego works by keeping us busy doing things that we can't do, keeping us busy going after goals we can't achieve, keeping us busy seeking that which we can't find. See, if you call, it will be answered. If you knock, it will be opened. If you seek, you will find. If you're doing that with the infinite. But with the ego, the opposite is the truth. The opposite is the truth with the ego. If you knock on the door of the ego doesn't answer because it's not there. If you seek what the ego dangles in front of your nose, you'll never get it because the ego doesn't know how to give it to you or how to tell you to find it. So you can tell by what you're feeling, what voice you're listening to, the voice of the ego or the voice of the spirit, because the spirit's always giving you relief. The spirit's always giving you inspiration, always giving you joy, always giving you peace, always making you feel better and better and better. The ego, on the other hand, is making you feel worse and worse and worse and giving all kinds of reasons why you should feel worse and worse and worse. And they seem very, very true. They seem very, very true. And so you don't want to question them because you don't want to be irresponsible. When, in fact, the most responsible thing to do is say, I cast this burden on the infinite. I let the greatness of the infinite take over here. The greatness of the infinite, where is that? Everywhere. That presence is everywhere. There is no spot where God is not. The Creator's greatness is everywhere, in everyone, and in everything. Every piece of matter doesn't have anything other than vibrations. And when we look at the world through the eyes of the infinite, through the eyes of spirit, through the eyes of our soul, we don't see object, person. We see vibration, 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 life, 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 magic, 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 magic. And that's how the infinite wants us to see everything, is how it really is. Magical vibrations. Magical vibrations aren't there to burden you. Magical vibrations are there to free you, to inspire you. Through the connection with the infinite intelligence, we can have brought into any situation harmony and healing, no matter how bad it seems. Remember what the ego trades in: unsolvable problems. So if it looks unsolvable, you know it's not from the infinite. If you think it's unsolvable, if it's a burden that can't be cast, you know that that thought's not coming from the infinite. The infinite doesn't know unsolvable. The infinite doesn't have difficult and easy. I think it's even those of us who know better, that know these things theoretically, we still go through our life thinking, well, this is kind of big of a problem. I don't know that the infinite could handle this. I better take care of this on my own. Or this is so insignificant, I don't need to bother the infinite with this. I'll just take care of this on my own. So that's not coming from the point of view of your soul. The soul knows that there's no separation between me and the infinite. I'm an extension of the infinite. I have all the same powers as the infinite. And together, we make quite a team. Together, anything is possible. Remember that line in the Bible, with God, anything is possible? That's all that means, is that when you understand that you and the infinite are one force, that you're just an individuation of that, then you recognize that there is no simple and challenging. There is no easy and hard. It's all the same. It's all just what we said before, magical energy. And all that magical energy is based on thought. And thought can always be changed. Now, it may seem like it takes time for things to resolve in the three-dimensional world just because it is subject to time. But that time can be collapsed the more that we understand that when we cast the burden, we are casting away from us, we are relinquishing our investment in the problem, and therefore we no longer are helping to create it or keep it. And a lot of times when we hear that, we think, oh, that's blame the victim talk. You can't say that I created this problem. I understand. But see, there is a real legitimate way in which we are responsible for some of the bad things in our lives. Not that it's our fault, not that it's anything other than our responsibility to recognize where we're hanging on to a belief or hanging on to a situation, hanging on to a condition, and wanting to take care of it all by ourselves without inviting the infinite. And when we invite the infinite, we recognize I can cast this burden and it can be healed. That's not blaming you for having the problem. It's finding a new way to look at the problem where you can take responsibility for your hanging on to it and saying, I don't want to hang on to this anymore. I want to release this. I'm going to let this go. I want this healed. I want happiness. I want joy. I want peace. I want prosperity. I want health. I want love. I want connection. Those are all good things to want because those are all qualities of the infinite itself. And if that's what you want, then what you're seeking for is who you really are as a soul. And that means that you're seeking to wake up from that nightmare and that you no longer want to keep everything that doesn't exist within the truth. And so when you're giving up this burden, all you're basically saying is, I am no longer willing to participate in this lie. Because even though it's very real in three-dimensional reality, if it's not peaceful, if it's not loving, then in the cosmic order of things, it's not real. And three-dimensional reality will give way to the will of the infinite as long as we stop propping up the ego. But that's totally up to us. Nobody can force this. You don't have to give up your burdens if you don't want to. You don't have to do anything. That's the wonderful thing about life. You are free to think anything you want. You are free to have any belief system you desire. But it is up to you, if you aren't happy, to question those beliefs, to question those thoughts, and to question whether your keeping this burden is working. Not only this burden, any burden. And I guarantee you, if it's burdening you, it's not working. You're not going to figure it out. You may seem to, in time, figure out how to get out from underneath this burden, only to find a new burden to take its place. Because you've accepted the idea that burdens are possible for you, that they're real for you, and the only way out is for you to figure them out. None of that's true. You can't figure that out by yourself. Nobody can. Nobody can. Because there's nothing to figure. So until we're willing to cast that burden, we'll never be able to see the unreality of the burden. Once it's gone, it's like, oh, that was easy. Have you noticed that, you know how when the astronauts did the moon landing? Well, there's been a lot of astronauts since then, but when an astronaut leaves the atmosphere and they leave the gravitational field of the Earth, that everything becomes weightless. They become weightless. No matter what it is, it becomes weightless. Well, that's what you're doing when you cast the burden. You are relieving yourself of the weight of whatever it is by connecting with the force that exists outside of the gravitational pull of the three-dimensional world. And the wonderful secret in all of that is that's also you as a soul. You as a soul don't exist within the gravitational pull of the world. You can exist in this body, in this three-dimensional time and space. You can exist in this world as a soul and experience all of the wonderful things of this world without the burdens. Once you recognize that your soul doesn't really live here, it's just experiencing things through the body here. And when you recognize that, you and the infinite are one, and you reconnect with the infinite, and you cast that burden, and you go free, you are lifted up out of the gravitational pull of whatever the effects of that were, that thing can just disappear. That thing can just go away. And you never know how it's going to resolve. It's always kind of fun. I love that part of any kind of magic is, I wonder how it will manifest. It's going to be so exciting to see how it will manifest. I have no idea. But the best thing to do is cast the burden, put it out of my mind, and I'll see. I'll know when this thing has been resolved. Anytime you come back to feeling that heavy feeling about whatever it is, just remind yourself again and again. Like we said, it's just like practicing the piano or any other skill. I'm going to cast this burden on the infinite and go free. And as you get used to that new habit, you get used to the experience of being unburdened. When a burden enters, it's so much more obvious than it used to be. Because it used to be sort of like, well, this is just my norm. I'm always burdened by something. Once you let go of a burden for real, you just really cast it and it's gone. When a new burden comes, it's obvious. It's obvious. And it's so much easier to notice it and to make that choice to cast it immediately because you don't want that feeling anymore. You got rid of that burden, and now you don't want a new one to take its place because you've now become so accustomed to this feeling of freedom that anytime something comes in to thwart that freedom, it's obvious. And you say, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm casting that burden immediately. And this is your power. The power to cast a burden is your power, and you can use it liberally. There's no overusing it. In fact, I recommend that you use it more and more and more until you don't feel like you need it. One burden at a time, letting it go, and recognizing it's not the infinite's will for me to carry burdens. So I'm going to unburden myself by casting this burden, and I'm going to be free. And that's my choice. And once you exercise your choice, once you exercise your free will to think thoughts that you want to think, and you do so purposefully in defiance of whatever everybody else has taught you and what everybody else is saying and doing and what your ego is screaming at you about, you can't go back. Well, I mean, you can, but you don't want to. You won't go back. Because it feels too good to be free. And so then you start living your life more freely, and we know what happens. You inspire other people to do the same thing. It's not just you in a vacuum. It's you helping the entire world heal because you've decided to cast your burden. Thank you so very much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be. I always go over. Jeez, I do have time for a quick question. If we have any. Nope, we don't. Okay. Yahoo! Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you so very much to the amazing moderators, Dre, Honeypaw, and Deline. And we will see everybody on Wednesday for Witchy Wednesday. Until then, blessed be.